Hello. Right, we're going to make a start, so thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about Power Automate and artificial intelligence with Dynamics 365 Finance. There will be no dancing in this demonstration, I can promise you. So, my name's John Bohm. I'm a pre-sales solutions architect at Hitachi Solutions. A little bit about myself. I qualified as an accountant a long time ago, and I've focused on looking after finance systems. But more recently, I've moved into the Dynamics space and focused on 365 Finance. And I guess I've had my head turned by the Power Platform and everything that can do. So we're going to focus on talking about both Power Platform and 365 today. Matt?
Yeah, thanks, John. Hope you can all hear me. So my name's Matt Treadway. Like John, I'm from Hitachi Solutions, also in the pre-sales solution architect area. And before we get going with today's presentation, I just want to just say that John and I are both very proud to be representing Hitachi today as the headline sponsors. But really, it's a big thank you to everybody that's here today, all of the sponsors making today a really, I've really enjoyed getting around and meeting lots of new people. So thank you to everybody for contributing to today. So what we're going to do, we're going to structure today's presentation into two halves, really. The first half, you're going to have me talking at you about artificial intelligence, about where it's been, where it is, and what the future might hold. And then John's going to give us an end-to-end demonstration of a solution that we've built. So whilst I was doing research for today's presentation, I came across a few really interesting pieces of information that I thought I'd like to share with you. And the first is a piece of research that was conducted from business leaders around the world. And it was asking them their opinion about what they thought technology is going to change in our world over the next 5 years. And as you can see, 86% of the business leaders thought there's going to be a significant change that technology is going to bring to us, and not only at work, but in our daily lives as well. And that made me ask the question, what is significant? What does significant mean? And I think that the real answer is, it's going to be different for everybody. And I'm going to give away my age now, but when I first started work, I didn't even have a computer on my desk. As a graduate accountant at the time, it was simply paper-based receipts, transactions, bookkeeping. And the day that I got my first laptop provided to me by work was a red letter day in our family. My mum told my nan, who told my auntie and my uncle, and it spread around the family. And it was a big deal because that was a significant change for my family in the way that they were used to working. And even if we fast forward to today, my parents find it hard to believe that I can be effective, do a good day's work without even leaving the house. And I think that my boss kind of shares that skepticism as well sometimes. But the next piece of research says, okay, we know that there's going to be a significant change in the short term. Just where's that going to happen? And the same people were asked, and they said it's going to be cloud-based AI solutions. Now, moving on then, because I'm an accountant and no presentation's worth its salt unless there's some numbers, there's been research that's been able to put a value on the potential benefit to the world economy by using artificial intelligence. So if we think about in the next 8 years, what's AI going to give to the world economy? If I was to tell you $15 million US, I don't think you're going to be that impressed. If I told you that AI could contribute $15 billion, then I'm pretty sure a few of you might be a bit more interested. However, the estimate is, the projection of what artificial intelligence could give us is $15 trillion over the next 8 years. Now, there's so many zeros there, even as an accountant, it makes my head spin a little. So to put that in context, the Chinese economy for last year was just over 14 trillion. So this is the potential, the untapped potential that AI has got. And what I find really exciting is it's the people, you guys here, everybody in this room today, who are at the forefront of being able to shape where AI is going to take us. And that's partly about the demonstration that John's going to take us through towards the back end. It's looking at the processes about not just at work, but our daily lives, where we can tap into this potential and hopefully all benefit from it. So which areas of our working life might change? Where can AI really start to add value to our, like I say, not just at business, but our daily lives? And when we think about AI, we think about tasks where there's a lot of repetition going on, where we're generally dealing with large volumes of data, and traditionally they've been paper-based activities. I can remember back in my early career going through stacks of paperwork, literally reading it and manually typing it into another system. It's invariably going to be time-consuming. It's an area that's got little subjectivity. The human brain isn't really being taxed in these sort of processes. And ultimately, they don't really give us a lot of value. So these are the key 6 criteria where AI could be used within our daily lives. And if we can identify these areas, then that's where we want to be using AI. So if we look at some of the examples that are around and that we all take for granted in today's world, Netflix. I don't know about you, but I can't even begin to remember the last time I actually chose something to watch. Netflix or Amazon Prime has given me those recommendations based on other programs that I've watched, saving me time. Instead of me having to go searching off for an obscure documentary on pirates, it's going to be given to me straight away. Grammar correction, something that I simply could not live without. Taking my jumbled up mess of a sentence and turning that into something coherent is something that I rely on a lot. Fraud detection, this is something that's just embedded in our everyday life. About 4 years ago, my debit card was cloned. Unfortunately, no money was taken. And that could have been there was no money in my account. Or it could have been the fact that the AI capability at the bank prevented anything really serious happening. And then there's other areas such as crop health monitoring, making sure we're making use of our natural resources. So we'll have drones flying over vast fields of crop, looking for slight changes in colour, in temperature, and getting the farmers to take preventative action. And then something a little bit more mundane, but warehouse management, making sure that, you know, if you go to an Amazon warehouse, they've got the robots that are picking and packing, and all of that's based on AI about optimization of these processes. Now, leading into John's presentation that he's about to give you, I'm going to introduce you to the world of Remittance Advices. I know, I can tell the look on your faces. Now, for those unfortunate people that don't know what a remittance advice is, let me explain. Generally, when a customer pays a supplier, they'll not only send the money, they'll send a piece of paper or an email to that supplier to say, this is how much I'm paying you, these are the invoices, and this is when you can expect to receive that payment. It tends to be a very manual process. Someone at the other end has got to open the envelope, they've got to manually read what's on there, and they've got to key it into their system. In this case today, it's going to be finance and operations. And then manually, they've got to go through, tick off all the invoices, make sure there's no errors, make sure everything's all reconciled nicely. And really, if we think back to those 6 levels of criteria, it's repetitive, it's paper-based, it's not really adding any value. And that's why we've selected today to use this as a prime example of an area that can really add value to a business. Now, when John's going to demonstrate, he's going to be using 3 core elements of the Power Platform. So we've built a Power App, we've joined that together with Power Automate, and within Power Automate, we've used the AI model, and we've trained that to recognize different formats and variations of a remittance advice. So at this point in time, I'm going to hand over to John, and he's going to take you through the demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Oh, I sound louder now. Good stuff. Right, so what I'm going to start first is looking at the Power App that we've put together. So what you can see on the screen here is a simple Canvas app looking at a table we've created in Dataverse. Now, each of the records in the table relates to a separate customer in Dynamics Finance. And we're going to use the first row in the table here, customer 27, Birch Company. And the purpose of the table, I guess, first of all, is that end users can maintain some of this information themselves. So it doesn't need a developer to change some of the data that's been recorded against the customers. So if we cover some of this information here now, let me just scroll up. The important piece that we'll use to control this process is the email address. So I'm going to send an email with a remittance advice on from my Gmail account, and the model will use the data in the table, and it will match my email address to customer 27. Now that's important because then from that we can start to relay other pieces of information. So it's going to call this particular AI model, and that will be the model that takes out the data from the remittance advice. But also, if you're familiar with finance, you'll know there's a lot of other parameters that we need to pass to the model to create the journal successfully. So, for example, we need to tell it the bank account that's going to be used to post the cash into. We're going to pass the currency as well, and other things such as the journal description. So because I'm going to try and do a live demo, let's just put in today's date. What is today's date? 16th. Thank you, Matt. So we'll put in the 16th. And then, standard Power App functionality, you have the ability to save existing records. I can create new ones, and I can delete them as well. So, as I said, the start of the process is to go into my Gmail account. I've got an email ready to send, and let me just click on the advice so you can have a look at that. So we have a very similar advice to the one that Matt just showed you. We've got 14 invoices that are going to be paid on the process. And the important piece of information is this column. So how much we're actually going to settle against each of those invoices. And as I said, the AI model has been taught to recognize this format and to pick out each of those bits of information when it's creating the customer payment journal. So let me now click on send, if I can find where the send button is. And I'm going to jump quickly across into Dynamics now. And also, I wanted to jump into the payment journals. This is important because I want to prove to you that this is live. So at the moment, we've got 4 unposted customer payment journals. If everything is working for us today and the wind's pointing in the right direction, we should have 5 payment journals very shortly. So, coming back to the main form as well, another thing that you can do with Power Apps and Dynamics, because we're talking about Microsoft products here, you can embed the Power App within this particular workspace. So another neat way that end users can interact with this information, they don't need to launch the Power App from Power Automate. They can access the information from within Dynamics 365. This is typically where these people are going to be spending most of their time. Oh, perfect. So the process is now working. So the first Power Automate message has been posted to Teams. And we've done this just to give the end users some visibility on what's going on with this process. So if I dive across to Teams, we have a message that's just been created at 2:15. It's picked up the email that we sent from the Gmail account. It's mapped it to customer 27. And now it's going to call a second Power Automate flow. And the purpose of that flow is to take the information off the remittance advice and create the customer payment journal. Now you can see I've been practicing this lots of times. What we'll see shortly is a second message from Power Automate to say that that process is complete. So while we're waiting for that to happen, we have a filler slide that we can just talk about quickly. And I think this is important because we've done some calculations on how long it actually takes a user to create these types of journals. And when Matt and I were talking about this in his previous role, he estimated that his accounts receivable team were processing about 3,000 documents. And on average, when I was trying to create these journals myself in Dynamics, it was taking about 2 minutes per document. So that's giving you 100 hours every month that someone is typing in these documents into the system. And, on a 40-hour week, you're talking 2.5 weeks of someone's time just plugging away at these customer remittance advices. Obviously, artificial intelligence, we can do it in half the time, but it's we're saving a lot more time than that. We're actually moving that 100 hours from a person into an automated process. I do acknowledge that there are going to be occasions when remittance advices aren't always going to be read successfully, so you do have to consider error handling. But it gives you some idea of the immense time that can be saved by automating some of these processes. So I hope we have now moved on in the process, and we have. So we've got our second Power Automate message now, so this means that our second flow is complete. And it's telling me that Customer Payment Journal 665 has been created in the system. So that's all good demos. Let me go back into Dynamics. And we have, a fifth payment journal in the system. So let me open Journal 665. So, you may look at this and think, well, what have you done? You've created a single line journal. That's, hardly groundbreaking. In Dynamics, the bit that really does take the time is actually marking those transactions. And so here we have the 14 invoices that we saw in the remittance advice and the amount that's been picked up. So all of that has been done in real time, as we've been talking about it today using that AI model. So hopefully, really, that's the end of the demo. Hopefully that's giving you some insights into the sorts of things you can do with the Power Platform and Dynamics 365. And, you may have other processes that are also taking lots of time for your users and would be ripe for automation. So anyway, let me hand back to Matt now, who's going to just finish with a few conclusions.
Yeah, thanks, John. That was amazing as always. Thank you so much. And I think that this slide that we're on here just represents the true value that an organisation can achieve from their existing processes, but just utilising the tools, the standard. Everything that John's shown you there is just standard. Moving on then towards the end of our presentation today, and we're going to end with some conclusions, as every good demonstration should. So what we've seen is that the invention of AI models has made it really easy to automate documents in D365 Finance. It's that whole joined-up approach of the Microsoft platform, really pulling everything together, using the Power Automate to link different parts of the system together to give that truly joined-up, seamless end-to-end process. So some key takeaways, and this is what we're seeing from our prospects and from our customers at the moment when they're talking about the adoption of AI within their business. Our advice is always start small and build your confidence, and using those 6 elements of the repetitive tasks, the ones that are time-consuming, ultimately quite boring, that really need you to stretch your mind. Start with those first. The remittance advice process is a perfect opportunity for a business to become familiar with AI and really start to tap into that $15 trillion opportunity that's in front of us all. What this is going to lead to is faster, more accurate and consistent creation of transactions, removing a layer of human error, really. And what that does mean is we're freeing up people's time. As the example that John gave, maybe 50 hours a month of people's time is now available. They're going to move away from data processing into data validation roles. They're going to use that time for value-added activities. And in this case, it could be customer profiling, identifying any risks, mitigating those risks as well, chasing up bad debt. And those are all valuable activities that a business should do. So at this point in time, I'll just hand you back to John. In fact, I might as well just stay on. So thank you very much for your attention and your time today. We hope that you find it really useful. The screen, yeah, there we go. We'd really value some feedback if you want to take a picture of the QR code and let us know what you thought. And if you do see us around, please stop us. Really interested to talk anything Dynamics or AI Power Platform. And yeah, on a personal note, I'm really looking forward to getting around the rest of the exhibits today and getting to speak to as many people as possible. Thank you very much.
Yeah.